Audio Jungle.
Southern California, good evening, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. My name is Teran Rodriguez, and I am your host. We have a lot to get through in today's show. First and foremost, this is the new start time and new day of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Yes, I'll be on Fridays, but enough about that. Lakers and Clippers, they are both one win away from reaching the conference finals. The long-awaited LA versus LA matchup awaits us. And the Los Angeles Rams and Los Angeles Chargers both kick off their season this Sunday. Will they be able to get the win, or will they stumble in their season opener? For the Angels, Padres, and Dodgers, they both continue their season as one team has been fumbling, yet surprising. One team has been dominating, and the other team is still trying to keep themselves above water. And the Los Angeles Sparks, they took themselves a little bit of a tumble yesterday against the Washington Mystics. Does that jeopardize their chance at getting a first-round bye? Or do they still have a possibility of getting the first and second-round bye? All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Like I said, my name is Teran Rodriguez. Happy Friday to everybody. Hope everyone's having a great start to the weekend. And without any further delay, let's get started. Let's get started with some NBA action. But first, in order to help me with the NBA, I have myself a special guest. You know him already. He has already made his appearance on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, and he is back after a 1-week hiatus. You know him, you love him, the one, the only. Introducing my guest, Mr. Teran Rodriguez. How are you doing today, Justin?
Doing pretty good, bro. Do people really know me and love me after just 2 podcasts?
Absolutely. You're a natural, and you're going to do some great things, so...
well, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Without any further delay, let's have some fun and let's get into some NBA action. So the Lakers and Clippers, they're both one win away from reaching the conference finals, and everyone's going to finally get that long-awaited Los Angeles versus Los Angeles conference finals matchup. So, Justin, what has impressed you? We'll start with the Lakers. What has impressed you regarding the Lakers and how they, after losing Game 1, they've now rebounded and taken the next 3 games?
Well, just how dominant the Lakers have been on both ends of the floor. You know, especially on the defensive end. And you really have to give credit to Frank Vogel. I mean, you know, If you don't, you know, Frank Vogel, I mean, I don't know if he was the greatest hire or at least the Lakers' number 1 hire, but he was a great hire, you know, especially for defensive purposes. You know, Frank Vogel was a great defensive coach before. I mean, you know, he had great success with the Indiana Pacers. In fact, I think... I want to say it was either 2013 or 2014. It might have been 2014 when the Indiana Pacers had the number 1 record in the East. You know, I want to say they had the best defensive team in the entire NBA, at least as far as points allowed. I mean, I'd have to check to confirm that, but I just remember seeing, you know, watching all those great Indiana Pacer teams. especially on the defensive end. You couldn't score on him. I mean, just ask LeBron James himself. They you remember how much the Pacers used to give them trouble in 2013 and 14.
Mm-hmm. I do.
With Paul George, Roy Hibbert, Lance Stevenson, and those guys. In fact, I've got here an article. According to Frank Vogel, the Lakers' defense is as powerful as any superstar. And he goes on to say, if you have an elite defense, that can be your third star, so to speak. And I completely agree with that. What's really impressed me, at least these last couple of games, is just how dominant they've been in so many categories. For instance, the Lakers outscored the Rockets in second chance points 55-29. They outscored them in the fast break 66-25. Points in the paint 212-138. Rebounds 177-132. And block shots 24-12. And that's cumulative in all four games, including the one they lost. So I mean, they're just out beating them and they're just beating them and out hustling them in every single category you can think of, and the Rockets are just done. I mean, you could tell from the looks on their faces at the end of Game 4, just their spirit had been broken. I mean, they even though they cut the lead to 5, at the last minute, once the Lakers finished them off, with the Alex Caruso 3, that was it. The Rockets just look like their spirits had been broken, and this small ball, no guys over 6'7". It may work well in the regular season, but when you're going up against elite teams, and the half court becomes much more of a factor, and defense becomes tougher, it doesn't work. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I totally agree. And believe it or not, the Lakers are actually giving Mike D'Antoni and his small ball gameplay a taste of their own medicine. Like, they've flipped the script from going with JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard to basically going with the tallest guy on the floor being Anthony Davis. Like, even yesterday, the Lakers put in Markieff Morris instead of starting JaVale McGee, which was a complete flip-flop and a complete, head-scratcher, but it made a lot of sense because now D'Antoni's small ball lineup is no longer in effect. And what's worse for the Houston Rockets is that they will now be without Daniel House the rest of the season, or the rest of the playoffs, because he violated the NBA rules and he brought someone from the outside of the bubble into his
quarantine COVID rules. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He violated the COVID-19 rules and all that, and he's no longer going to be playing for the Rockets this semester. And oh my gosh, he's done. He's done, and it's that, and that pretty much.
Well, we should probably explain what Danwell House did. I mean, it wasn't really he. It was bringing who was it? His girlfriend or something, or.
Yeah, I think it was some sort of female. I don't know if it was his girlfriend. Like, I feel it was some sort of female outside of his girlfriend, and
she might have had COVID.
Exactly, and that's the problem. That's a big no-no. It's basically like what happened with one of the Seattle Seahawks players. They brought in someone, and then he got cut, and. Yeah, and he's done. And before we continue, let's give a couple shouts in the chat room. Shout to Ben Sutterth III, aka BS3 Radio, for tuning in, and also shout to Dave Friedman, the host of the the Kansas City Shuffle for tuning in. He says, if I was an NBA player, I would straight out be pushing people I couldn't cover out of that bubble.
And thank you for the compliment, Dave. He says that if the dude talking is your brother, though, he has a great voice. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, a lot of people, compliment me on my voice because it's so deep. It's got like that baritone. Like, if you listen to sports radio, often like I do, one of my favorite callers that calls in is this guy named Don from the City of Industry. I sort of have like a man crush on him because he's got like such a great voice. It's so deep and it's like it's so old school radio. He's got like that James Earl Jones like voice. This is CNN. This is ESPN. You know what I mean? And he's such a nice guy too. He should really have his own radio show. If you're listening, Don.
Yes, hopefully he's listening. And Dave says you sound like Raymond's brother from Everybody Loves ... The kind words are appreciated for my brother Dave. It really means a lot that you're tuning in. Shout out to Corey Walker, who just joined in the chat room. He is the host of Down in H-Town, the Houston show, which Corey says, Daniel House, shake my head with a facepalm emoji. No, Dave. Please, no. So anyway, Corey Walker, as you can see, is a diehard Houston fan. He's a Texans fan. He's an Astros fan. He's a Rockets fan. He's the University of Houston fan.
Oh, wow.
So
H-Town representing.
Let's just say yesterday was not a great...
not if you're Danwell House. Yeah, I mean, what an idiot that guy is. Seriously. I mean, he's like their sixth man, and he just takes himself out of the series and out of the rest of the playoffs for something so stupid. I mean, that could have really made a difference. I mean, game one, he had a great game. I don't know if they win that game without Danwell House. And I agree with you. The rotations that Frank Vogel did the last couple of games, really worked out well because if you go back and watch those first couple games, when they had JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard, there were lots of mismatches. I mean, I would have thought that they had that series in the bag by going big. Because that's their greatest strength, their size. But when you have so many small guys and 3-point shooters, what it does is that it lures the defense out to the perimeter and it lures those bigs. And if you're really good at the triple threat, or triple threat offense, you can shoot right over them if you give them enough distance, or take them off the dribble and look for a cutter, and if their teammates make a good cut, then then guys like JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard are too slow to get back. So and Houston did a great job at taking advantage of that. So it really helped that Frank Vogel went with a couple small guys to kind of balance things out, and it worked out well. So give Frank Vogel and the coaching staff a lot of credit.
I definitely agree. Yeah, Frank Vogel's out here playing chess while D'Antoni's still playing checkers. Like that small ball lineup. I called Houston's small ball lineup basically like a high school basketball strategy, or I called the Houston Rockets overall a high school basketball team. Now they're kind of bumped down to JV, so
well, I wouldn't say that. They still made the playoffs. They still made the second round, but still that kind of basketball only worked for so long. But what really does win championships are the fundamentals. big guys in defense and stars.
I totally agree. And Corey says, what did Corey said? He said something about beat LA. He says, but beat LA this weekend, Rockets and Astros. So he's talking about the Astros playing the Dodgers and the Lakers playing the Rockets. We'll see, Corey. So, and then Dave, as I said, is a Chiefs fan. He's saying go Chiefs. So, yeah, we'll be talking a little football a little later. But
I would love to see what those social media exchanges are like between him and Dodgers fans.
He's referring to Corey and the Dodgers fans. But anyway, Lakers are indeed one more game away from the Western Conference Finals. That it would be a long time coming for the Lakers, and their possible opponent is looking like it's going to be the Clippers, as the Clippers are kind of somewhat manhandling the Nuggets 65-53 as this broadcast is going live. And it looks like the Nuggets...
Yeah, it's been pretty much all Clippers all game. I mean, Denver's trying to hang in there, but they just haven't really been able to stave to a... I should say the Clippers have been doing a great job of staving them off so far.
It's been a rough week for Denver sports in general, as Von Miller is out. It's looking like Von Miller's out for the rest of the year with a ankle injury, and
that's no good.
Yeah, it's been a really rough weekend for all the Denver fans, and it looks like the Nuggets are about to get cooked. I messed that up. Here we go. Messed it up, but I'm trying to do the Kawhi laugh, but we'll get to that a little later. But yeah, the Clippers have been impressing. I thought they were going to drop Game 3, and personally, I thought that my brother and I both saw that game, and unfortunately, it looked like the Clippers were going to lose, and then the Clippers decided to turn on the plot armor button and say, "We're not going to lose. We ain't losing." It's like, not today, devil. So Justin, I ask you, what has impressed you the most when it comes to the Clippers and how they pretty much have the scrappy Nuggets on the brink of elimination?
I mean, that's a tough question to answer because, I mean, until Game 4, the Clippers hadn't really been that impressive. They had a great Game 1. But I mean, games 2 and 3, they just seemed off. I mean, it looked like Denver had figured something out. And if Denver had won that Game 3, this would have been a whole different series. It seemed the Clippers were very sloppy when it came to turning the ball over and it just looked like their offense was a little out of sync, kind of the way they struggled against Dallas in the first round. But I mean, like the Lakers, I mean, even though LeBron, Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George have been great. You really got to give credit to one of the best coaches in history, Doc Rivers. I mean, he's made the necessary adjustments and put the Clippers in the best position to win these last couple games. I mean, we'll see how this turns out, but it looks like this is the Clippers' game to lose.
Yeah, it's pretty much the Clippers' series to lose at this point, and unfortunately, it's looking like it's looking like the Clippers are finally going to break that curse of not making the conference finals. 49 straight years.
Yeah, that's going to be that's the big news right here. If the Clippers win, this will be their first appearance in the conference finals in franchise history.
Yeah, 49 straight years without making a conference championship. It'll finally be broken if the Clippers can hold on and beat the Nuggets tonight. If not, then they'll have another chance on Sunday and whatnot. So, but I think the Clippers have got this. It's kind of disappointing because I wanted this to at least go 6. I mean, 5 would have been cool, but I mean, at least it wasn't a sweep. But I kind of am a little disappointed in the Nuggets just because the Nuggets, to me, I think they're so much better than this, but I think the problem with the Nuggets is that they're just gassed from that first round series against the Jazz. And I think the Jazz would have matched up better against the Clippers just because they have a lot of athletic players such as
Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell.
Joe Ingles to some degree.
Yeah, Joe Ingles. Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah, they have a bit of a smaller team that and Gobert is a better defender than Jokic.
Yeah, Rudy Gobert, I forgot about him. Yeah, so
they could have given him a bigger series, but I mean, I kind of expected this. I picked the Clippers in 5 to begin with, so I mean, it looks like I'm going to be right. I mean, I also wrote down most of my picks have been right. You know, a lot of my predictions, you know, for this bubble have come to pass. I mean, I remember before the playoffs began, I told you, you know, because we're in a neutral site. You know, go back and listen to that first podcast because the playoffs are in a neutral site. You know, with no real fans. You know, anything can happen. Expect the unexpected. You know, I picked Denver to win against the Jazz in 7 games. I was completely right, but I didn't predict them to come back from 3-1. But again, you know, nothing's over till it's over. You know, it's all about momentum in these playoffs and who's hot. And you know, just look what happened to the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks, I think it really hurt them being away from home, especially with the Kenosha, Wisconsin shooting incident. You know, I think if they just had some home cooking, I think they would have benefited a lot better than they did in the bubble. You know, they just even in the seeding games, they just couldn't really get it together, and you know, it really hurt them. And you know, Jimmy Butler's a killer, so give the Miami Heat a lot of credit, but you know, you said before the Indiana Pacers. Or at least the last time I was on with you, that the Indiana Pacers were the most disappointing team. It's clearly the Bucks. Don't you agree?
Yeah. Well, that was the first round. Like in my defense, it was the first round of the playoffs. If I had to pick the most disappointing team in the second round, I would most definitely be the Bucks.
It's overall. I mean, the Bucks were expected to go to the finals, but they lost 4-1 in round 2. So. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've actually got some little chatter in the chat room, and big shout out to Corey and Dave for tuning in. I appreciate you two tuning in. They're saying, Corey says that it's the Kawhi Leonard effect for the Clippers, best player in the league, and then Dave says you misspelled LeBron James, and then he says Corey says we'll see in the Western Conference Finals. Braun still has the crown, but Kawhi's coming for it. And then Dave says,
he's coming for it. Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's still the defending champion.
And Dave says Kawhi is a darn good baller, but has some things to prove before he's on Braun's level. It's like Lamar Jackson versus Mahomes potential, but prove it. I totally agree with that. I couldn't agree more with that reference, Dave, and same goes with Kawhi. But Kawhi has won 2 championships on two I wouldn't say struggling teams. Like the Spurs have always been that good team, but when Duncan retired, it kind of was a little bit of a falling out. So then he took let's be honest, he took the Raptors, a team that hadn't even sniffed the finals, to the finals and beat the Golden State Warriors, ending their dynasty. I mean, in the defense of the Warriors didn't have Kevin Durant, and then
they had all sorts of injuries. Clay got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but still, you got to give Kawhi credit. Well, remember the other series win was against LeBron. The other finals win was against LeBron in the Miami Heat.
Yeah,
he has beaten LeBron before.
Yeah, that was when he was on the Spurs. So, but yeah. I totally agree.
But he was still the MVP.
Yeah, I totally agree in that sense. But this kind of
I'm not saying, Kawhi's necessarily better than LeBron now. I mean, LeBron has definitely been the best player so far in these playoffs. But Kawhi's right behind him. I agree with that guy in the chat. Everything will be settled after next round.
Yeah, and Dave says Braun has more championships than I have kids. True. And my seed is as potent as Colorado weed. I'm giving it to James. I love it, Dave. I love your references. Like, it's always great to have you in the chat room, Dave. But we definitely will see in the next round. I mean, Clippers still have to get out of. Both teams have to get out of the conference semifinals first, but I think it's pretty much a wrap. Even if the Clippers do lose, there's no way they could botch being up 3-1 and then there's no way they're going to pull a Utah Jazz. It's not like this is 2015.
Clippers are a way different animal than Utah. They're a way better team than Utah is.
Exactly, and this isn't 2015 where the Clippers have a 3-1 lead and they're going to get complacent and lose to the Rockets. It's not going to go down like that. Like, the Nuggets are pretty much gassed out, and
this is a way better team than those Chris Paul teams. If the Clippers don't win tonight, they'll win Game 6.
Exactly, and the same could pretty much be said for the Lakers, except I think closing out the Rockets
it's over. The Rockets are done. They'll stick a fork in them. The Lakers are closing them out in Game 5.
I hope so too. They definitely got it, because that Game 4 when they were up by like 23 and then almost and then the Rockets got down to like 5. It kind of reminded me of the bubble game between the Rockets and the Lakers, where the Rockets were just pounding the Lakers, and then the Lakers got down to as little as 5, and then James Harden became a thing and pretty much flushed the Lakers out of that game. And Corey knows all about it because both of us were on the live call on that. But I pretty much think that this. I totally agree with it. I think the Lakers can close it out, especially without Daniel House. So I couldn't really. I don't know what to say except bring on LA versus LA. And if that happens, the bold prediction is a team from LA will make the finals.
That's not a bold prediction. That's a fact.
I know. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Hence the Kawhi Leonard laugh. So, Dave says, idea: Jordan, the actual GOAT, versus Jordan, the current GOAT, and both of them are playing a one-on-one game, dealing with their flu games. Who wins? Interesting question. Who would win if both players had the flu and they were they were facing one another? Who would win? Like, I'm going to pass that one on to you, Justin. Like, who would win between Jordan, the actual GOAT, versus LeBron, the current GOAT, and both of them are playing one-on-one while dealing with the flu? Who would win?
MJ.
Yeah, I'd definitely pick MJ without a doubt.
LeBron's a great player, but MJ is without question the more mentally tougher player, like if both of them had the flu or the coronavirus, Jordan would win in a landslide.
For sure, I couldn't agree more. And
now if they're both healthy, that's a different ball game. But
yeah. Jordan has had that mentality where not even a herd of elephants can bring him down. And speaking of basketball, it's a little interesting because now the Nuggets are only down 69 to 63. So this could be 3 points. No, it's not. So yeah. Clippers are only up 6.
Over.
Yeah, so, and Dave says MJ is the answer 100 times out of 101. Jordan is the literal biggest badass I've seen in my life. Facts, Dave. Facts. Especially if you've seen The Last Dance. So, but, yeah. To close out the basketball aspect, how disappointed were you when the Bucks lost Game 5 and pretty much were bounced out of the playoffs? Like, was that disappointed, or was that the Heat just being fresher and crisper and just better prepared because of Eric Spoelstra?
Well, it's not surprising. I mean, I thought the Miami Heat would close the deal after Giannis went down. I mean, there's no way the Milwaukee Bucks were going to come back from 3-0 without Giannis Antetokounmpo. They tried. The Milwaukee Bucks gave it a valiant effort. It was just too little, too late. But overall, I was shocked at how one-sided the series turned out to be. I definitely didn't expect a sweep or even a gentleman's sweep.
I totally agree, and as we said, the Bucks are definitely the most definite most disappointing teams ever. And Corey says Bucks are frauds, weren't as good as their record. Or as Marcus Losgreat once said, they were the kings of the regular season, but not the kings of the postseason. Like this year, they even took a step back in terms of playoffs, because they got all the way to the conference finals last year, and then they lost to the Raptors after they took the first two games. This time, they decided to go below and beyond, get it instead of above and beyond.
Well, again, I keep reiterating, being in the bubble, that team just wasn't built for these circumstances. I think it was either Kenny Smith or Charles Barklett said last night that he said it perfectly. The Milwaukee Bucks are basically the Houston Rockets of the East. Great in the regular season, not so good in the playoffs. They just don't seem to have. There's several problems with the Milwaukee Bucks. A, they only have one star, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Chris Middleton's not a star. He may be an all-star, but he's not a superstar. But number two, I mean, I could be wrong. I don't remember. Did Middleton ever make an all-star team?
I want to say he did. I honestly want to say he did, but I'm not 102%. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, and second, they don't have that killer instinct. I mean, not even Giannis. Giannis does not have that killer instinct that he needs to go to that next championship level. He misses free throws in crucial moments. I mean, he's never really been a great free throw shooter. He's been okay, but but like you gotta hit those free throws in crunch time, and he never in big moments he never really finished the job. At least when it comes to when he comes to going up against heavyweights. You saw that last year with the Raptors. And you saw that this year, with the Miami Heat, and they weren't even a heavyweight.
And speaking of basketball, the Clippers decided to turn on the plot armor button and go back to what they were doing. And Dave says, "God, I wish Kansas City had a basketball team." And Corey Walker
used to.
Yeah, maybe they can take the Clippers if they somehow move from Los Angeles.
Steve Ballmer's not moving the Clippers to Kansas City. I can tell you that. Hey, real quick, Teran. So you're not wrapping up basketball right now, are you? We haven't even talked about the big game tonight.
We're not wrapping
Game
it
7.
up. We're not wrapping it up just yet. I was just ready to ask you about the Raptors and the Celtics. So the Raptors, interestingly enough, were down 2-0. It looked like they were going to be down 0-3, and then OG, whatever his last...
Anunoby?
Yeah, OG Anunoby, or Obi-Wan Kenobi, hits this amazing, crazy shot over 7'6" Taco Fall. And then eventually the series was tied at 2-2. Celtics go up 3-2, and then the Raptors win in double overtime against the Celtics. And now the series is tied at 3-3. And then after the Clippers-Nuggets game, the two will be facing each other in Game 7. Winner takes all, while the loser goes home into the bubble. So what are your thoughts about Game 7 and who do you like in Game 7?
Well, first of all, to answer your second question, I have no idea who's going to win Game 7. I mean, I'm leaning towards Boston. It just seems like they've been the better team. But this has been a fantastic series. That's why I'm a little hesitant to pick them, because like you said, even though they were close to taking a 3-0 series lead. I mean, Charles Barkley made a really excellent point last night inside the NBA. I mean, as great as this Boston Celtics team is, they're only as good as they'll only go as far as Kemba Walker can take them. Is what I'm trying to say. Because when Kemba Walker doesn't have a good game, guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are out of sync, and that contributed to their losses in games 4 and 6. I mean, Kemba didn't have a great shooting night, therefore Jason Tatum didn't have a great shooting night. So they just couldn't put him. As a result, they couldn't put away the Raptors, and Kyle Lowry's been spectacular this series. So if Kemba comes back and is the Kemba Walker that we're accustomed to seeing, then the Celtics win. But he really needs to step up to the spotlight, and because remember this is the first time he's really been in a meaningful playoff series. He's been on bad teams with the Charlotte Bobcats / Hornets. I don't even think he even won a playoff series. But he just didn't have a team. But now he does. There's no excuses this time. They either go up or down with Kemba Walker.
I totally agree. And Corey makes a good point in the chat room. He says the Raptors have have the hearts of champions, and I couldn't agree with that more. And that's what I've been saying. Like, people were thinking
you couldn't say that about him 2 years ago.
Yeah, obviously, but this is now. And Nick Nurse, you have to give it up for Nick Nurse. He's definitely done an amazing job.
Oh, he's been great.
And everyone even thought that the Raptors weren't even going to get to this point, but now they're in a position where they can make the conference finals for the second straight year. And I'm going to stick with my gut and say the Raptors are going to win it. Knowing I said that, the Celtics are probably going to win in a landslide, but I've been wrong before. I mean, look at the Angels and the Astros. Sorry, Corey. And we've got some more chatter in the chat room about comparisons. 2010 Celtics versus 1992 Bulls, who wins? And I definitely would say 92 Bulls without a doubt. And no doubt about it. Like, let's move on. So I'm still gonna go with the Raptors, but it can go either way. Like, what wouldn't surprise me if the game goes overtime, or if it's decided by a game-winning shot from either team. Like, just like last year when Kawhi nailed that baseline 3, which broke the hearts of all 76ers fans, and poor Joel Embiid, and we might even get another NBA meme, an NBA crying meme. So yeah,
this has been the best series, in this entire bubble playoffs by far. Celtics Raptors.
And there's been a little controversy, but what's a series without a little drama and controversy?
Oh, that reminds me. I've been meaning to go. Do we have time for like one more quick rant about the NBA before we get into the NFL?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Okay. I posted this on my Facebook and my Twitter feed. You can follow me at CSUF_JRod1, and I tweeted a mini rant about you know what's been the most annoying thing about these playoffs?
Tell me.
Especially the second round. The constant stoppage of play with the instant replays, especially at the end of the game. I mean, oh my God, I was going crazy. Like the Heat Bucks thing at the end of Game 2 with the Jimmy Butler walk-off free throws and the Game 6 with the Celtics Raptors, and I think it was. Yeah. It would have been the last game. Game 4 with the Nuggets Clippers. The constant stoppage and replays. Like, do you have to check every single play? I mean, it's like it totally stops the flow of the game for the players and for the fans alike. It's just like, let's go. I mean, I understand you want to get the call right, but at the same time, it's like we're anxious for a finish here. And we're anxious to get the game over with, and it gives teams free timeouts. It gives players time to recover. You know, from a knockdown drag out game, and again, it could really affect the momentum of the momentum and the outcome of a game. It could be a huge momentum shifter, and it's just so annoying. I think the referees just need to cut back on that a little bit. And the players and the coaches too, they've got to stop complaining about every single little call.
Oh, that's definitely a good point, and I couldn't agree with that more. And it's just like the NFL. Like, the 2-minute warning could turn into like a long time, considering teams...
NFL's getting bad too. You know, ever since that Nickel Roby-Coleman,
pass interference.
Yeah. That pass interference no call. I mean, it's like it's put the NFL and its officials in a position where you have to review and you have to make up new rules for every single little thing. You know, every close, you know, possible, you know, play or no call has to be reviewed. It's totally ruining the games.
Yeah, and I think they might have scrapped that rule with the whole...
The pass interference thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I heard that.
Yeah, that's a good thing and it's a bad thing. I still think
you know whose fault it's those stupid crybaby Saints fans' fault. Look, I don't get me wrong. I understand it was a bad no call. I'm not trying to be a homer here. You know, it was one of the worst non-calls, you know, in football history. But that happens, though. You know, you don't need to obsess over it and threaten to sue. It's just like, get over it. I'm sorry you lost, but it's life.
Look on the bright side, Saints fans. At least you're not the Chargers who traded away Drew Brees over to you all. Oh, wait, that actually happened. And I'm a Chargers fan. And I'm pretty sure Dave's going to have a field day in the that. And yeah, and Dave said the last game had an
appreciable amount
of lack of calls. Makes sense. Oh. And then he says, but the Saints had a valid point with theirs. Yeah, it should have been pass interference, and it was totally a blown call. But it is what it is, and it really sucks for that the Saints that it had to happen, because I would have liked to see Tom Brady and Drew Brees, but at least we now get to see Tom Brady and Drew Brees now. But anyway,
perfect segue.
Yeah, anyway, now we get to transition into the NFL. So, for those of you that are wondering, Justin, my brother here, is a Rams fan. And I don't necessarily hate the Rams, but I just like the Chargers more. Like, when it came down, like, if it comes down...
Well, you adopted the Chargers a long time ago, so that's fair.
Yes. And when if it comes down to it, like, I definitely would root for the Rams if the Chargers were to, like, not make the playoffs and the Rams were to have made the playoffs. I totally would go for the Rams. And the same could probably go for the Colts. Like, if the Colts make the playoffs, then I will still root for Phillip Rivers. Like, that dude, I as much as he's frustrated me in the past, and he just hasn't had that clutch gene like Brady or Mahomes has. Like, you have to admire what the guy's been through. And
I have a great article from Connor Orr of Sports Illustrated. He's got some pretty bold predictions as far as how all 32 teams will finish in each division, and who goes to the playoffs. You want to do that first, or you want to talk about the Houston, Texas, Kansas City Chiefs game?
Let's talk a little about the Kansas City Houston game, just because we have a Chiefs fan and a Texans fan in the chat room. And big shout out to Pierre Moss for joining us in the chat room. Thank you for joining us, Pierre. And also big shout out to Matt Hames for joining us in the chat room. Now we got a party. And Dave says, do me a favor, detail all of the years the Chargers have actually won the AFC West. I'm sure you could take at least 30 seconds to detail it. Oh, thanks, Dave. You mean like a couple of years ago when they tied with the Chiefs? I mean, and Matt Hames is a Steelers fan, and I believe Pierre is a Giants fan, but that's not the point. Let's just segue into the Texans-Chiefs game where Kansas City just took the Texans to the shed. Like, the Texans scored the first touchdown of the game. Then the Chiefs, like I said, turned on the plot armor button and went to town and pretty much made all the Texans fans' night a living heck. So, unfortunately, I knew the Chiefs were going to win, and some people were saying the Chiefs weren't even going to score 28 points or 21 points or something like that. And I'm like, what? You forget who's on the Chiefs? Patrick frickin' Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and
Sammy Watkins caught a touchdown pass from Patrick Mahomes last night.
Yeah, Sammy Watkins, like, he was pretty good as well. So
former Ram.
Yes. I'm sorry, Corey. I don't like Corey is angry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It was the only game that's been played so far, Corey. We have to talk about it.
Yes, but quick and dirty, it was just all Chiefs, and the Chiefs just have a lot of firepower, honestly. Like they're on another level. Like, the Texans are a good team, but the Chiefs are just straight on another level. And Matt Hames says Steelers over Chiefs in the AFC title game. You heard it here first. Okay. Well, the Steelers are going to be better than last year. Like, the only reason why they were bad was because they lost Big Ben in, like, the second game of the season. The second game of the season, and then they had a shuffle with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. And they were lucky to have won 9 games. So I gotta give the Steelers a little credit, but I can at least see them making the playoffs. So, but overall, the Chiefs just were in total control. I mean, the Watson's touchdowns pretty much were in garbage time when the Texans were down 24. So, it's tough for me to justify the Texans, and they've got an even tougher matchup next week against the Ravens. So, I was kind of disappointed from the Texans. I was expecting them to at least score at least 28. I was expecting high scoring. So overall, I'll just briefly talk about this. I'll just briefly talk about this game. So basically, the Chiefs. There's a reason why the Chiefs were picked to have the primetime game on NBC and their championship banner raising. So yeah, I wasn't too surprised in the Chiefs winning. I was surprised on how they pretty much held the Texans to only 7 through 3 quarters. So Corey says Ravens falling off this year, Steelers win the North. Could possibly be, but still got to deal with Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram, Mark Andrews, Hollywood Brown. Ravens defense is pretty good, being led by Matthew Judon, a.k.a. the man who says his body is built by Taco Bell. So, Yeah. Yeah, it's actually true. He said that in the little NFL player intros on Sunday Night Football. So I'd be interested to see what the Steelers can bring to the table. So we'll have to see. As for the Chiefs, their next game is against the Chargers, and that's going to be at SoFi Stadium. And that's a good segue to go into the Chargers' first game of the season against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals, to me, are an interesting team. They were the worst team in the NFL, but they do have a new quarterback in Joe Burrow. I honestly think some people are saying it's going to be Chargers, and then some people are saying Bengals. I personally think it's going to be the Chargers, but I think that it's going to be a close game. Yes, Dave, I'm not going to look that far ahead, but I'm at least going to give the Chargers this win over the Bengals. The Chargers are indeed bad, and they are pretty horrible in season opener games, but honestly, I don't see them losing to the Bengals of all teams. Like, Joe Burrow hasn't even played a down in the NFL. He didn't even have preseason, so, and you could maybe say the same for Tyrod Taylor, and Dave thankfully agrees with me. He says, Chargers beat the Bengals, yes. But when it comes to going forward, it's kind of the worst of both worlds for the Chargers. It's like if the Chargers win on Sunday, I could see them going on a little cold streak, or them possibly like losing, heaven forbid, losing a star player or two. Because last year they had a lot of hype, and the Chargers had a lot of hype, and then they surprised me by winning their first game of the season against the Colts, and they're pretty bad with season openers, because I'll be the first to say it, the Chargers suck when it comes to season openers. If you ever have a season opening game against the Chargers, you might be in luck. But this time, I think the Chargers get the better of the Bengals in the season opener. So I pretty much said 24-21 on Larry's show, and I pretty much can see Joey Bosa getting after Joe Burrow. I think Bosa's going to be chasing Burrow a lot, and they also have Melvin Ingram, and Chris Harris is an experienced cornerback, as well as Casey Hayward at the cornerback position. I think the Bengals will make it interesting, but I just think the Chargers will probably win it by at least 3. Heaven forbid, it wouldn't be surprising if the Chargers won off of a field goal from Michael Badgley. But as Dave said, I don't see them beating the Chiefs. Like, as much as I want to be faithful to the Chargers, it's just not going to happen. Like, if the Chiefs were able to do what they did to the Texans last night, I am actually not looking forward to what the Chiefs will be doing to the Chargers. So, yeah, Dave's like, I'm looking at my chops going head-to-head against you on Chiefs versus Chargers week. Yes, I'm sure you are. Yeah, and for good reason, too. And holy guacamole, the Nuggets have taken the lead.
Yes, they have.
Oh, gosh, and thanks, Dave. You're great at what you do, but the team matchup makes it too easy. Yeah, and Tyrod Taylor, I need to get that right. It's pronounced Tyrod, not Tyrod. And
I thought it was Tyrod, too.
Everyone thought it was Tyrod.
It seems like everybody calls him Tyrod.
Unfortunately, it is pronounced Tyrod, according to Tyrod. But we're going to have a little swear jar every time we say Tyrod. It's instead of Tyrod, so either way, Tyrod, who cares? And Denver is up freaking 6 on the Clippers with 5:48 to go. Jiminy Christmas. Good gracious. So anyway,
we'll get back to that game later, but
yeah,
I want to ask you some questions here.
Go ahead, fire away.
So again, I've got Connor Orr's article, and how do you think the Chargers are going to do this season? Like, where do they finish? You think?
That's a very good question. For starters, they're not going to finish on top of the AFC West. That's the Chiefs. But I think the Chargers are much better than most people say they are. But here's the problem. They play in such a stacked division in the AFC West. You look at the AFC West as a whole. The Chiefs, they're the Chiefs. The Raiders have improved. They still have some issues, and they did lose Tyrell Williams. But I think they've improved. The Broncos are kind of good. I think they're young, but losing Von Miller and Nick Chubb not being 100% kind of makes it tough for the Broncos. So overall, I think the best the Chargers can do is probably 8-8. The best I can see them going is like 9-7 or 10-6 at best. But I see them finishing no higher than second.
Connor Orr's got the Kansas City Chiefs winning the division at 10-6, and the LA Chargers being the runner-up at 9-7.
That's crazy.
It doesn't really say. He doesn't really say why, but he did. Why he's picking the Chargers to have a winning record? But he does say that he has the Chiefs. He does. Oh, get this. He says he has the Chiefs losing, not only losing the Chargers, but losing to them twice.
What? I don't know what to say about that.
Part of my article got cut off, but that's a weird thing.
I don't believe it.
It says he goes on to say while it's entirely possible they are more dominant than they were a year ago because of their condensed offseason and the health of Patrick Mahomes, teams in their vicinity have now had 2 years to draft ancillary talent that should help slow them down.
Yeah, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah. I don't see the Chargers beating the Chiefs twice, but this is a new team, with Tyrod Taylor, being the quarterback. How good is Tyrod Taylor? How many weapons do they have? Can Joey Bosa and company hold that, be as strong of a defensive line?
And I totally agree. I could see them at least make it competitive, but
and with the new don't forget we have a new playoff format. With 3 wild card teams. So I mean, if the Chargers, if the Chargers do finish 9-7, they could sneak in as the 3rd wild card team at least.
Sneaking in, I can see, but it's just
it'd be tough.
Yeah, without Derwin James, it's just tough because Derwin James is out the year with I believe an ACL injury, and it's crazy. And Dave says he wants to call in so bad. Well, maybe I'll have you call in a little bit, but I gotta talk more.
You take calls?
No, he wants to call into the show and talk with me, but I just don't see it happening. I know we live in 2020, and I know crazy things have been happening, primarily in sports, but at the same time, I don't see that happening. Especially when the Chargers go to Kansas City. Just because the Chiefs will probably locked up the AFC West, and they'll probably locked up a playoff spot more likely, I just don't see it. I don't see the Chargers winning at Arrowhead. They only won that one game at Arrowhead a couple of years ago because heaven knows, and Rivers was wise to go for 2 instead of the tie. So yeah, I just don't see the Chargers. I could see them at least going 8-8 at the median, but I don't know. And probably the final wild card spot is as best as they go. So to me, I think that would be mind blowing if they beat the Chiefs. If they beat the Chiefs at least once, that's a victory on its own. They could just stop the season right there and just forfeit the other games to the other teams. But I don't know. So and he says, name a defensive scheme that covers Kelsey, Hill, Hardman, Watkins, and Robinson on the fly, while also trying to keep a box that can contain Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who averaged 9 yards a carry against the tight boxes last night. Yeah, exactly. I just don't see... I mean, the Chargers have a good defense, but that Chiefs team is stacked. And it's just I just don't see it. Like maybe I just don't see them at least beating the Chiefs, not even once. As faithless as I sound, I just think that maybe this article came out before the season started and when Derwin James was healthy.
It came out on the 2nd.
The 2nd of September.
Month.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Is that right before Derwin James?
Pretty much, yeah. So,
all right. So what about my Rams?
All right. Yeah, we've beaten up on the Chargers too much. Now let's go into your Rams. So the Rams are an interesting bunch. They are a good team. They do have Jalen Ramsey and they have Aaron Donald on defense. And then on offense, they have their offensive line kind of lacks. I think Jared Goff will kind of struggle, but he does have good receivers in Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, Josh Reynolds, and the running game leaves a little bit to be desired as well, especially with Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson. So I don't know. I just don't really see the Rams. I think the Rams can make the division interesting, but I don't know about playoffs. Like if they're lucky, they'll be able to sneak into the playoffs. But that NFC
I got them making the playoffs as a wild card.
Say that again, one more time.
I said I've got the Rams making the playoffs as a wild card.
That's a very interesting thing to say because the NFC
like a 7 seed.
The NFC
they were 9-7 last year. If this year's playoff format were in effect last year, they would make the playoffs. And Connor Orr has the Seattle Seahawks winning the division at 12-4, and the Rams at 11-5, just right behind them.
Where are the Niners?
He's got him last in the NFC West at 8-8.
Oh my goodness! And yet, yes, Dave, we get it that the Chiefs. The only one that poses a threat is the Broncos. I agree, but that's very interesting considering there is the possible Super Bowl hangover. But
that's what Connor Orr mentions in this article. He said. Let me read you this paragraph. Quote, putting the 49ers at 8-8 doesn't look that bad until you realize it's last place in the division. I am admittedly caught in the offseason trap that is the Cardinals. They are the trendiest team in football this offseason, because of Kyler Murray, and my hope is that they finally have the personnel to upgrade their already substantial lead over the NFL in 4 wide sets. And yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Kyler Murray had a pretty good year last year for a rookie. I mean, yeah, he especially at the end of the season. I mean, I didn't really follow the Cardinals too much, but it seemed like Kyler Murray was, toward the end of the season was starting to get his groove, and and became a hot football quarterback. Going back to the 49ers, I still like the 49ers. Who doesn't? However, plenty of teams have missed the playoffs after a damning Super Bowl loss like this one. And as we saw in Seattle, Jacksonville, Chicago, and any of the other places where excellent defenses emerged over the course of the last decade, it's incredibly difficult to keep a unit like that together while playing at a high level. Yeah. He forgot to mention my Rams in that list too. The Rams were a losing Super Bowl team, and they didn't make the playoffs last year.
Exactly. Yeah. When it comes to losing teams that are the runner-ups to the Super Bowl, I think they're more at risk of missing the playoffs than the Super Bowl champion. So yeah, honestly, I like the Chiefs are a different animal. Like. Chiefs, I could see making the Super Bowl and maybe winning the darn thing, but we'd have to see. Like we have to wait and see with everything. And but I don't see the Niners. I just don't know if the Niners can make it back to the big bowl. Like they could even miss the playoffs. So yeah, so your Rams play the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday in Sunday Night Football. So what are your thoughts for that game, and what's your prediction for the Rams Cowboys game?
Well, I think both teams are gonna come out and come back with something to prove, and I mean Dallas could win, but I'm taking the Rams. I mean, I think they're ready to come back at their new stadium and bring one home, even without fans.
As much as I wanted to, I had the Cowboys winning that game just because I think the Cowboys are a little bit more. They're a little bit more complete than the Rams. Like Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott are the two-headed monster, and then they have a lot of good receivers like Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and even Tony Pollard's on the uprise when it comes to that backup running back position. So I kind of had the Rams losing the first game, not so much because I'm just not too high on the Rams. Like, I'm not too high on the Chargers either, but I'm just more high on the Cowboys. Like, the Cowboys to me are just they're just a better offensive team, and their defense isn't too bad despite all the injuries that they've been dealt. So I think the Cowboys though have a lot to prove, and Dak has a lot to prove when it comes to being an elite quarterback. Like, he didn't get the money he wanted, but he's got to earn that money. So we'll see what he could do. Dave in the chat room says Cowboys 31, Rams 10. That's a little. I predicted it to be a lot closer than that, but to each his own. So we'll see. So I'm really excited though for the Rams. I think the Rams get to be the lucky contestant that opens up SoFi Stadium, but it's looking like it's going to be a loss. So, but crazier things have happened. Like, that's kind of a pick'em game, if you ask me. Like, I just had a tough time picking between Cowboys Rams. Like, you look at the Rams' X factors. I think it's going to come down to the Rams' defense versus the Cowboys' high-powered offense, and I just got to go with Zeke and Dak for this one. Like, nothing against the Rams. And I'll eat my own words if the Rams do win, but honestly, stop, Dave. It says fantasy football. Dave beats Teran by 5 points. Stop. Like, we ain't even talking about that. Like why you gotta bring that up, man? But yeah, back to the Rams and Cowboys. I just think the Cowboys have a little bit more in the tank, but. It would be cool to see the Rams win and pretty much see all the Cowboys fans pretty much be moaning and groaning, especially the annoying ones that say, "How about them Cowboys?"
Right? Yeah.
So, for the purposes of I don't want Cowboys fans to say, "How about them Cowboys?" I want the Rams to win, but in terms of me thinking with my head instead of my gut, I gotta go with the Cowboys. So, oh, Dave. So, anything else you want to talk football-wise before we head to a commercial break? Well, actually, this Clippers-Nuggets game is getting very good as the Nuggets are up 5. So.
Yeah, we'll have some final thoughts. I have some final thoughts on that in a minute, but we haven't even talked about the big game on Sunday.
We
haven't even talked about Tom Brady yet. Tom Brady and the Bucks.
Yeah.
Brady against Breeze. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they're not Southern California, but we could talk about them for a little bit.
Yeah. At least for a second. I'm really interested to see how Tom Brady does with his new team in the Tampa Bay Bucks, it should be interesting, with them going up against Drew Brees and the Saints. Who do you have winning that division, by the way?
The NFC South, I have the Saints winning that division.
Yeah, a lot of people are picking the Saints
because this is pretty much Drew Brees' last dance for the most part.
Stephen A. Smith says Tom Brady and the Bucs can go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, a lot of people are high on the Bucs. To me, the Bucs are a paper team. They're an on-paper team. They're good on paper, but until I see them play, I want to see. I want to see them actually win games. I want to see them actually gel together. I want to see if Tom Brady works well with Gronk. Because remember, Gronk didn't even play a snap last year. Like he so-called retired and then came back a year later. So I guess he just needed like a little bit of a hiatus. So it's whatever. And then Mike Evans is questionable, or he's doubtful for the Bucs Saints game. So that's kind of another reason why I have the Saints winning against the Bucs, just because Mike Evans is a little injury prone. So, but it is going to be fun. That is going to be the fun one. I think that should be the Sunday Night Football game and not Rams Cowboys. Like, nothing against the Rams or the Cowboys, but
well, the Cowboys are America's team, supposedly.
Yeah, and Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth love talking Cowboys, but then again, if we put the Cowboys on Fox, then Troy Aikman and Joe Buck are going to be calling that game, and Troy Aikman's a former Cowboys fan, so yeah, that's what I still that's kind of my little food for thought, but still. It's whatever. TV is TV. At least they're on Fox. So, yeah. So yeah. I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up for the NFL portion.
Yeah, just real quickly, going back to Connor Orr's predictions. He agrees with you. He's got the New Orleans Saints winning the NFC South, finishing at 14-2. He's got the Bucs tied with the Falcons at 10-6, and Carolina bringing up the rear at 3-13.
Some people are actually thinking Carolina's actually going to do good. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I think that the Panthers are good, but it's going to take them a little while. Like, especially with Teddy Bridgewater.
Speaking of Carolina Panthers, believe it or not, he has Cam Newton and the Patriots winning the AFC East.
See, that's not surprising though. I think it's going to come down to them or the Bills, but I think it is possible for the Patriots to win the AFC East. But
why are the Jets being undersold?
Jets, they have a crappy coach. They're Adam Gase.
That's true. Yeah, they need to get rid of that coach.
Yeah, Adam Gase is bad, man. He's bad, terrible, man.
Yeah, that's the perfect last name for him because he has just such a weird, eye gaze. Everything about him is just creepy. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
and that's a shame because Sam Darnold's a great quarterback,
And he hails from Southern California too. Former San Clemente Triton, and he's a former USC guy. Led the Trojans to the Rose Bowl. Back in 2016 when they beat Penn State. That was an amazing game. It's a flashback Friday moment. And Dave says it's the Jets. Make a case that they can even win 5 games.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's true. The Jets can score up a ham sandwich.
Yeah. Jets ain't gonna do squat. So yeah. I'm sorry. And he says, and Dave says, Darnold is a terribad quarterback in the pros. I think he's improved. I personally think he's improved. He's going to improve. Like, even Joe Namath says he's going to be more mature. Like, as long as he's not, like, getting mono or being stupid. Like, I think he's he's going to at least do something big. So I think he's going to have at least one. He's going to eventually blossom. Like, he can't be bad forever, can he? Let's not answer that question. So anyway, I think that's pretty much going to be it for football, unless you want to talk about something else. But for now, this Clippers Nuggets game is reaching its climax with the Nuggets at the line looking to extend their season. As we're going to get to Dave's comment, he says he's improved from wasn't playing due to middle school sickness to he's at least on the field. On the field and unfortunately seeing ghosts, but I think he's going to mature a little. Like, they're certainly not going to make the playoffs, and heaven forbid they're not even going to win a playoff game, or they're not even going to beat the Patriots. So, but I at least got to give him some sort of chance. So yeah, and Dave. Why you gotta do this to me, Dave? Dave is.
Why you gotta keep going back in the chat? You're getting distracted, Teran.
Dave wants me to freaking talk about this little wager because I'm playing him in fantasy football, and fine, Dave. What? I'll accept your little wager, but it better not be too.
Can we at least wrap up this Clipper Nuggets game before you go into that?
Yeah. Come on, Dave.
Yeah, that's the only final thought I have.
Yeah. So let's do that, Dave.
Let's do what?
Yeah. Let's wrap up the Clippers Nuggets game, and Paul George's at the line. He makes a free throw, but
this has just been a terrible quarter for the Clippers. The Denver's outscored them 36-25. They're again, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast. The Clippers' offense at times is just disjointed. And their defense was terrible too in the fourth quarter. It was just all over the place, sloppy, and too much clustering, and they gave up too many threes. So they can't even foul right this last moment. So I think the biggest problem with the Clippers is that they don't have a point guard. Patrick Beverley and Patrick Beverley does not count as a point guard. Even though he is a point guard, he's a great defensive guard, but they need a point guard that can be a playmaker. Kawhi Leonard's basically their primary ball handler, and they need somebody like we talked about the Lakers earlier. The man that's really made the biggest difference for the Lakers in this series is Rajon Rondo. If it weren't for Rajon Rondo, this series would be 2-2. They would have had a much tougher time with the Rockets, but they have a playmaking point guard now, where the Clippers don't. In the end, they're going to lose here. So if the Lakers keep playing the way they've been playing, I don't see them losing to the Clippers in the conference finals.
Yeah, I agree. I think, to me, the Lakers have a lot of veteran depth. Like, what they lack in depth, they make up for in veteran leadership. And with LeBron being experienced, having gone to the finals and playoffs, and Rajon Rondo being a champion and having gotten playoff experience with the Pelicans, along with Anthony Davis. And then you also have Dwight Howard, who's had a little playoff experience, and JaVale McGee having playoff experience, and Frank Vogel being a seasoned coach. I definitely think this Laker team, it's too early to say, but I think this Laker team definitely has a leg up on the Clippers. The Clippers have the deeper roster for sure, but the Lakers have veteran talent and just overall big experience. And as we see, the Nuggets.
Well, the Clippers have veteran talent too, but again, they need a playmaking point guard. The Lakers have that now with Rajon Rondo, plus having two of the best two of the top 10 players in the game, and LeBron and Anthony Davis doesn't hurt either. So the Clippers are just much more organized than the Clippers are right now.
Yeah, the Lakers are definitely more organized than the Clippers, and they've adapted well when it comes to losing game ones. Like, they lost the game one to the Trailblazers. They managed to win the next four in a gentleman's sweep. They got trounced in the first game against the Rockets. They adapted well to Mike D'Antoni's system and said, you know what, you want to play small ball? We're going to play small ball ourselves.
LeBron has a history of this. He's had a history of losing game ones and just coming right back and just punching the team, his opponents in the mouth the rest of the series. It's like game one is just like a feel his opponent kind of game, and then the next game, after the game one loss, he goes back and looks at film and sees what he did wrong, what his team did wrong, and he puts himself and his teams in a much better position to win the rest of the series. He's like a player coach in this regard.
For sure, and that's the great thing about LeBron. Even he said that he compared the Rockets to the greatest show on turf, being the Los Angeles Rams. So honestly, I think that the Lakers, to me, they're better prepared. They're going to be better prepared, especially if they win Game 5, which I'm sure they will. They're pretty much going to wrap up. Sorry, Corey, if you're still in the chat room, I'm sorry, but it's going to have to be. Like, the Lakers are winning this one for Kobe. Like, they're winning this one for the Black Mamba and the Mambacita. So, yeah, sorry. So, anyway, Justin here, you have any more thoughts before we head to a commercial break and I let you go to watch this Raptors-Celtics game?
That was it. That was exactly it. I'm looking forward to seeing how this Raptors-Celtics Game 7 turns out, and we'll talk about that in the Eastern Conference Finals as well as the Western Conference Finals next Friday, right? Next Friday?
Friday. We are going to talk to everyone Friday. That's the new time, 4 p.m. Pacific time, unless, of course, we move it to 5 again, which if we move it to 5, so be it, but we have another show coming on in about 30 minutes, but that's not the point. So, point is, that's pretty much going to do it for this segment. Unless you have anything to add, Justin, I think we are going to go to yeah.
I mean, I just hope that the Clippers, don't screw it up anymore, and to take care of business in Game 6, so we could get the series that everybody's been wanting for the last year and 2 months. Ever since the Paul George Kawhi Leonard acquisitions happened.
Oh, without a doubt, and I definitely agree that that we should be getting this matchup. And if the Clippers don't hold up their end of the bargain, then it'll be disappointing. And Corey says Rockets in 7. I've only got one thing to say about that. Of course, why does this always got to mess up? Sorry, Corey. It's going to be Lakers in 5, if not 6. I said Lakers in 6, but if the Rockets can make it interesting, then
who's that guy that said Rockets in 7? Corey.
Corey. He's
he's dreaming.
Yeah, he it's wishful thinking on his part. But anyway, I'm actually going to let you go, and we're actually going to go to a commercial break. And when I get back, I will be discussing.
Corey, you're going to need a lot of good luck charms, in order for this comeback to happen, because it ain't happening. You're going to have like a whole 24-hour seance before Game 5.
I agree, and I feel for you, Corey. But you definitely do check out Corey Walker's show on tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Central time. And also check out Dave's show, the Kansas City Shuffle, every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Central time. Justin, thank you for being a guest on today's show. I definitely appreciate you, and thank you to everyone in the chat room for joining myself and Justin for this segment. So we're just going to take ourselves a quick commercial break. When we get back, I will be discussing the WNBA, the MLS, and the MLB. So you are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Lay down music,
Hey, what's up, BS3 sports fans? If you love listening to the BS3 Sports Show, check out the weekend wrap-up every Monday at 12:15 Central Time, 1:15 Eastern, recapping the weekend in sports like you never heard it before. Comedy, interactive chat room. It's a must listen. Weekend wrap up on Spreaker.com, part of the X Squad. Check it out. You won't be disappointed.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with a list of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your boy Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world, sports themselves, and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for The Defining Moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
And you could check out The Defining Moment with the hardest working man in IE Sports Radio, Larry B, who has done a lot for the station. Shout out to Larry B, who was in the chat room, or who was had himself a great couple of shows with getting 3 and Out back and up and running, and he's going to complete 3 and Out, 8 divisions in 8 days tomorrow. I believe it's going to be in the morning, so yeah, so that's, again, big shout out to the chat room, Dave, who's been sticking it out like a trooper. And he says, I see how it is. Okay. Oh, our bet that you haven't even agreed on but that I assume you did, is about to be broadcast far and wide. Well, my 370 plus followers wide anyway. It's getting real, Teran. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for calling me out. But yeah, I will accept your little wager, but it better not be anything too embarrassing, and no money. I just saying, my man. So anyway, but now let's jump into some WNBA action where the Los Angeles Sparks lost to the Washington Mystics. Now, granted, the Sparks have locked up a playoff spot, but they need to at least get at least a top 1 or the 1 or 2 seed in order to get a first and second round bye. So losing to the Mystics doesn't help their chances. So the Sparks close out the season tomorrow against the Las Vegas Aces, who are also trying to vie for a first round bye. So the division can no longer be won if you're the Los Angeles Sparks. So it is the biggest bummer in the world, and they worked so hard to get to where they're at. So come on, Sparks. But as for the Sparks, they still can get a first round bye, but they're gonna have to settle for the second seed. So the Sparks need to win tomorrow against the Aces, and then the Aces also need to lose to the Seattle Storm on Sunday. So the Aces have a gauntlet of a schedule, and it gets really tough. So the Storm have pretty much got the whole number 1 seed on lock, unless, of course, they choke tonight against the Mercury, which I don't really see happening. And then they'd have to lose to the Aces, which that's the only threat that poses to them. So, to me, I think the Sparks I think it was Chelsea Gray that said it, that the Mystics were fighting for their playoff lives because the Mystics need to pretty much run the table if they want to make the postseason this year. Like, they need to win Saturday against the Liberty and then Sunday against the Atlanta Dream. And if they do, then they're in the postseason. Like, we look at the current standings in the overall league. The Dallas Wings, which play the Seattle Storm tonight, and the Washington Mystics are both 7-13. And those two are, and also the Atlanta Dream can sneak into the playoffs as well. They're closing in on a playoff spot, but the Dream need a lot of help in terms of getting to the playoffs, especially since they lost yesterday I think they lost today. No, they won. The Dream beat the Connecticut Sun, so the Dream need a lot of help in terms of making the postseason, and they need some assistance. The Wings need to at least take, I want to say, they need to win 2 games, and then they need the Washington Mystics to lose at least 1. But I see the Mystics making the postseason since the Mystics have a very light schedule with the Liberty and the Atlanta Dream. So yeah. And Dave, I did see you calling me out on Twitter. So yeah, Dave, you and calling me out and he's calling me a Chargers stan. Like, first and foremost, I am not a Chargers stan. I am a diehard, but I'm a realistic fan. So, but at least he's saying you need to tune in anyway because he runs a great show. And I did accept your bet. Like, if you don't acknowledge that I accepted your bet, then I assume you're not fully tuning in. And I don't know, man, but. And I'll reject, and I'll de-accept my bet. But anyway, I definitely gotta give a big shout out to Dave for being in the chat room. I definitely appreciate you supporting me in the chat room, and I definitely appreciate all that you do for IE Sports Radio. And you do a great job with your show as well, man. It was great to have you back this past Tuesday. So anyway, so back to the Sparks. I see that if the Sparks need to win tomorrow, otherwise they gotta go through the playoffs the long and egregious way, and they'll be no worse than the number 3 seed, but I just don't see them getting the number 1 seed if they lose tomorrow, but they for sure will not fall any lower than 3. So yeah. Yeah, and Dave pops in the chat room, says, just wanted to show you that welcome to the next 3 days, bro. When I'm dedicated, I'm dedicated. This is Achilles versus her, whatever the heck her name is. I don't even know. Like, to me, I don't even care. I don't even know, but I get what you're trying to say, man. Like, I get what you're trying to say. It's basically, but Dave says he's now going to jet. WNBA and stuff isn't my jam. Well, thanks for tuning in anyway, Dave. I shall catch you on the flip side, and thanks for calling me out on Twitter. So, anyway, back to the MLS. The LA Galaxy are 4-0, and they continue to roll past their opponents. This weekend they play the San Jose Quakes, which I could see them winning that one if they play their cards right. But the San Jose Quakes haven't even won a game. They are 0-3-1 when it comes to this whole restart thing. So LAFC, on the other hand, has struggled a bit. Losing Carlos Vela has definitely affected them. They play the Portland Timbers on Sunday as well. The rest of LAFC's schedule has actually been announced, as they play LAFC on Sunday, but then next Friday they play the Seattle Sounders, and then after that they play Vancouver, then they play San Jose to close out the the September games. I want to see if the Galaxy have not released their schedule, which is kind of strange. Either way, I don't think we'll be seeing El Tráfico anytime soon. But anyway, I'm liking what I'm seeing with this Galaxy team. I think the Galaxy have really stepped up their defense. Like, they really impressed me last Sunday. They shut out LAFC. Granted, they didn't have Carlos Vela, but the LAFC still has Diego Rossi. So I don't see what LAFC's problem is, man. So anyway, that's my little spiel on MLS. I kind of have to jet through this because in 20 minutes we have another show going live, and then I gotta keep up with the housekeeping rules when it comes to this. When it comes to IE Sports Radio. So, and now just gonna plug in my laptop so we don't have any unexpected power shortages. And let us get into the final topic of today, and that is baseball. So, baseball-wise, surprisingly, the Angels did, last weekend, the Angels did something they hadn't done. They swept the Houston Astros in a 4-game series. Now, beating the Astros in a 4-game series was obviously great and all, but it was the first 4-game sweep they've ever registered in a 4-game series since 2017. So, although the Angels are supposed to be tanking, I was shocked that they even won that series. But to sweep the Astros, granted the Astros are dinged up, but honestly, I kind of was impressed by the Angels. So, yeah, the Astros are heavily dinged up, though. They've lost a lot of their pitchers and their big time hitters. Good segue for the Astros, as the Astros do play the Dodgers in a 2-game series this weekend. It'll be the first series between them and the Dodgers since this past August, where the Dodgers swept the series, and because of the whole Joe Kelly incident. And Joe Kelly has been released from his little suspension and all that jazz. So I'm looking forward to the Astros-Dodgers series, and it's going to be at the Chavez Ravine. So there obviously won't be any fans, so there won't be any trash cans or any fans talking trash to the Astros. So, yeah. So, anyway, we shall see how it goes. So, anyway, I can see the Dodgers at least splitting. Like, the Astros can't be bad forever, can they? I'm not even going to answer that question. But the funny thing is that the Astros are 22-23. Honestly, it would be shocking to see the Astros miss the playoffs. I don't see the Astros missing the playoffs. Like, there's no way in heck the Seattle Mariners get hot going forward. It would be a shocker to everyone. Like, and for the Seattle Mariners to even make the playoffs would be beyond me. So, anyway, to me, I think the Dodgers split the series, but those Astros, man, they got to get it going before the season ends. Otherwise, they could be on the outside looking in, because even though there are more playoff spots, they could fall. They're falling below 500 and having to compete with like the Yankees and the improved Toronto Blue Jays, and the stacked AL Central is another beast on its own. Because looking at the overall standings, the Dodgers are. Looking at the standings, the Tampa Bay Rays and the Blue Jays are the top 2 teams of the AL East. The AL Central is occupied by the White Sox and Twins, with the Cleveland Indians just slightly trailing the Twins. The AL West is occupied by the Oakland A's and the Houston Astros in the top 2 spots, with the Seattle Mariners only trailing by 2 games. And surprisingly, the Angels still have an outside chance, being only 4 games behind the Astros. Like, I'd hate to, I'd love, it would be quite something if the Angels, who basically are in tank mode, like, I don't see the Angels making the playoffs. Sorry, but I just don't see it. Not with that bullpen. But the Angels are not making the playoffs, so no Halo fans. You're not gonna get me back on the Halo train. Like, I can't be disappointed in the Angels if I don't hop on the hype train that's tempting me to go back on and cheer for my Angels. Now, for the National League, the the Braves and the Phillies are the top two teams in the NL East. The NL Central is occupied by the Cubs and the Cardinals, and then the NL West is occupied by the Dodgers and the Padres, the Padres have been playing some decent baseball as of late for the most part. This week they just beat the Giants in the first of a 4-game series. They swept away the Rockies, which is, I guess, a good sign for the Angels, but I don't see the Angels beating Colorado because higher altitude and all that. And the Rockies are kind of in survival mode. So the Padres have won 4 straight, or they've won 5 straight, and they're going to look to go for win number 6 in a row as they play the Giants, except not really because the Giants-Padres game is postponed, and it'll most likely be made up later on in the season as the Giants play the Padres tomorrow, and then Sunday the Padres and Giants play one another, and then starting on Monday, the Dodgers and the Padres play one another, and that's going to be a big series because that could be the Padres' last gasp to possibly winning the NL West. But I just see the Dodgers taking the NL West and pretty much being the number 1 seed in the NL West standing. So you look at the leagues. The Padres are the second best team in the National League, surprisingly, with the Braves trailing them by 5.5 games. So either way, I just see the Dodgers being the number 1 they're at least the number 1 seed. I don't think the Padres can be the number 2 seed because they're not going to win the division, and they're at least at best going to be the number 3 seed. So it's going to be Dodgers, Braves, and if the season ended today, it would be Dodgers the 1 seed, Braves the 2 seed, Cubs the 3 seed, Padres the 4 seed, Phillies the 5 seed, and Cardinals the 6 seed. And then the wild cards would be occupied by the Giants and the Marlins, the Miami Marlins. Fortunately for the Dodgers, they would be avoiding playing the Giants. And I think the Giants could give them a little trouble since they have given them trouble this season. Well, that's this season. Like, the postseason is a totally different animal, but the Giants to me are a little underrated. But they're starting to come alive, and for good reason as well. But I think the Diamondbacks have definitely slowed down. They're definitely in the bottom of the basement, along with those poor Pittsburgh Pirates. And the Rockies are still they're not too far back. So the Rockies just need to get past the Angels, but they still have a little ways to go in order to catch up to the Marlins. But then again, the Marlins and the Rockies have both not played the same amount of games. So we'll see how it goes for them. I pretty much see the Rockies taking at least 2 out of 3 against the Angels. If the Rockies don't take 2, if the Rockies only win 1 game, then that's kind of bad for them. So I don't know, especially since it's the Angels, and the Angels are just pretty much down on their luck, even though they did sweep the Astros, and they have won 5 of their last 7, but I don't see the Angels going anywhere. If they actually make the playoffs, then boy howdy, then they deserve it. Speaking of the Angels, I mean, they're like near the bottom of the American League, and poor Angels. So we look at the Angels, the remaining of the Angels record. The Angels are playing the Rockies right now. They are tied 2-2. After their series against the Rockies, they have a 3-game series against the Diamondbacks, then a 4-game series next week against the Texas Rangers at Angel Stadium finally, and hopefully the Angels can finally crack the code to why the heck they can't beat the Rangers, because of the 6 games the Angels have played against the Rangers this year, they've only won 1, which is surprising because the Rangers have a worse record than the Angels. And surely enough, the Rangers had actually lost 6 straight going into the first game of the series this past week against the Angels, who had won 5 in a row. So a lot of weird things going on. So, and then after the Rangers series, it just gets tougher for the Angels closing out the season, because the Angels play the Padres the last week of the season, and then they close out the season against the Dodgers in the Chavez Ravine. So Angels should enjoy playing at Angels Stadium when they play the Diamondbacks and the Rangers, because once they have to face San Diego and the Dodgers, it's not going to be pretty. Like the Padres are going to be in locked-in mode, so I don't see the Angels winning that series. No, let alone maybe even not taking a game. And I could just see the Dodgers sweeping away the Angels, unless of course they decide to rest everybody and just not even bother putting in all the starters. But that's just me. So the season's winding down. We are over the halfway point. So I think that's going to do it for tonight's episode. We went a little longer than expected, but that was because of reasons, and good reasons, obviously. So before we lock up and close everything down, I got to do a little housekeeping, do a little closing time. It's time to close up shop, everybody. So, and recap the IE Sports Radio schedule. So this past Sunday, we had Fast Break we didn't have Fast Break. So the week got started on Monday when the Sports Brunch went live with Seth Eves and Matt Owens. They pretty much went on all of the weekdays this week, and they talked about all kinds of sports, such as basketball, the NBA, the MLB, even the U.S. Open, because Matt Owens also does a tennis show as well, which I'll be getting into a little shortly. So definitely check out the Sports Brunch every weekday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time. Today they went on at 7 a.m. Pacific Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And on the East Coast, you could primarily catch them at 11 a.m. Also on Monday, we had The Unfiltered Truth with Phil Jones and Phil Robinson. They talk a lot about the Raiders. And also on Monday, and pretty much every day this week, we had 3 and Out with Larry B. Tomorrow, 3 and Out, 8 divisions in 8 days will have been concluded, as Larry B will be concluding the NFC South and closing out NFC week. So there's that. And then Tuesday, we had the Kansas City Shuffle with our good friend Dave Friedman, who was kind enough to pretty much blow up the chat room for good reason and for having a little fun, even though he was basically being a Chiefs guy when it comes to even though he was pretty much hyping up his Chiefs in a Southern California sports show. So, yeah. So, you can catch Dave Friedman's show, the Kansas City Shuffle, along with Ryan the Pez Choir Davis, every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Central Time, where you could also catch my show, Set Point, which is winding up season 1. So, next week, the 15th of September, I will be wrapping up I will have the season 1 premiere of Set Point, and I'm gonna have a guest. Who is this guest? I'm gonna keep that secret, and I won't be telling anybody until maybe Sunday. Keep your eyes peeled on IE Sports Radio. So anyway, Wednesday we had the first ever 3 and Out of the 2000. Well, not like the first ever, but the first NFL week. The first primary edition of 3 and Out, the first natural edition of 3 and Out, where we basically had the first primetime face-offs, where Larry B had a Chiefs fan and a Texans fan, a Rams fan and a Cowboys fan, a Steelers fan and a Giants fan, and a Titans fan and a Broncos fan going at it. So you can catch 3 and Out primarily every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a really great show, and it's going to be on StreamYard every week, except for Saturday. So definitely tune in for 3 and Out, and that's every Wednesday. Thursday we had the Extra Mile, which is basically an auto sports show, where it talks about NASCAR, Formula One, NHRA, you name it. That goes live every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can catch Daryl Kinsey Jr. and Michael Ward every Thursday. So, yeah. And Friday is my show, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, which goes on every Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Today was an exception just because we were kind of busy and all that. So this primarily on Fridays, you will see the SoCal Supreme Sports Show on Fridays at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Just in a little bit, in about 7 or 5 minutes, you will be seeing Robert Kavanaugh go live with the Neutral Zone, where he talks about the NHL and hockey. So definitely tune into that. And then closing out the week is Corey Walker, who was kind enough to be in the chat room today. Thank you very much, Corey, with his show Down in H-Town, where he talks about Houston sports. And he basically talks all things Houston sports. He even talks about the University of Houston. So definitely tune into Corey Walker's show every Saturday, which is tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time, or 5 p.m. Central time. No, it is 5 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Central time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So definitely do check out Corey Walker's show. And hopefully we'll get Fast Break back on Sunday. I'm sure we will, because we're soon going to be reaching the conference finals, except not, because the freaking Clippers lost. Thanks, Clippers. But at least my prediction of Clippers in 6 is going to be happening. So, yeah. Definitely do continue to support IE Sports Radio. Definitely support the website. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at IE Sports Radio. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube. Click the bell for notifications. Also, definitely support the IE Sports Radio website as you could log on to iesportsradio.com to buy our merchandise such as clothes, tank tops, sweaters, hoodies. Well, that's the same as sweaters, but whatever. But you could buy all things IE Sports Radio clothing on the IE Sports Radio website, and also sign up for our daily email. Our email list, and to get all of our recent and check out our recent blogs and our recent our past guests and our soon-to-be future guests. But we don't know when we're going to have future guests. And definitely do check us out on Spotify, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Spreaker, all that. And we're also on StreamYard as well, so definitely do check us out on StreamYard. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you to everyone in the chat room. And it's time to get on out of here, because my dinner is way past its curfew. So thank you again for everyone who tuned in for today's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. In about 5 or so minutes, maybe less than 5 minutes, we have the Neutral Zone coming on live with Mr. Robert Kavanaugh. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have a great rest of the weekend, and I shall see you on Tuesday for the Season 1 finale of Set Point. Peace out, everybody, and remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Good night, everybody.